Every generation of games has its trends. During the 360 and PS3 generation, it was dark brown and gray third-person shooters. The PS4 and Xbox One generation was the birth of the Battle Pass trend. And now in this generation of games, we're in the age of endless menu surfing and useless loot. The amount of time I've been having to spend sorting through menus, rather than just being immersed in the narrative and world of these big cinematic AAA blockbusters, has become one of my biggest pet peeves with current game design trends. This is something that especially came into focus for me while playing Sony Santa Monica's reboot of God of War and its sequel, Ragnarok. The original God of War games consistently kept you in the experience. You progressed through the story, you defeated a boss, you acquired a new skill or weapon, and then kept going. Only occasionally the game would take you to a menu to upgrade your gear after you had collected enough of the currency by defeating enemies. You held a button, your unique weapon, you unlocked through the story the game was upgraded, and then you were on your way. But that nice flow doesn't exist in God of War 2018 or Ragnarok. It felt like every few minutes the pace would grind to a halt. I'd go into the workshop to look through pages of menus, upgrade or change my gear, and then get back to the story. It's an irritating feature to interact with because it's just not what I play God of War for. I don't play these games to min-max my character's stats or visual style. I'm there specifically for the narrative, and every time I have to pause to stop to sift through menus, you're taking me out of the experience that I was enjoying and halting any sense of pace or momentum the game was building.
Patience. A virtue or a threat?
Depends on the reader.
This is all in service of increasing player engagement, as Yahtzee puts it, to pad out game length so that people feel like they're getting their money's worth out of a game when they say they spent 50 hours instead of 20 hours. It would be an interesting experiment to actually record a playthrough of some of the games I've mentioned and calculate just how much time you actually spend in menus, rather than the game itself. In fact, despite liking a good challenge, if these games offer a story mode, I've started playing that instead so they don't have to worry about constantly changing gear just to keep up with the artificial difficulty curve of the game. This unnecessary design trend has really gotten in the way of a lot of big modern games like Hogwarts Legacy, Horizon Zero Dawn, Assassin's Creed, God of War, and it's not just limited to AAA games either. Banisher's Ghost of New Eden is a game I've been enjoying for the most part, but I'm growing tired of constantly getting pushed into menus. Every time I get to a save point, I have to sit down and sort through menu screens for character upgrades, crafting, you name it. I'm at the point where if I see this type of menu in a game that I'm there to play for the narrative and world, I'm immediately annoyed by it. It's especially frustrating because this is a modern design trend that we already have solutions for in games from our past. Games that had player advancement and introduced new weapons and gear without ever bogging me down in menus to sift through oodles of gear that I don't care about. Crackdown, for example, did all of this play leveling up right in the game. Everything you did in the world contributed to some sort of stat, and the player character would visually and mechanically get stronger, unlock new abilities, and have access to new gear without ever having to wade through a bunch of menus to drop unlock points. Ratchet & Clank's weapons level up as you use them, changing both visually and mechanically, without having to dive into any skill tree or deciding where to allot skill points. More recently, Sea of Stars handled more traditional leveling up in a really simple and elegant way. You do a battle, you gain enough XP to level up, you choose one of 3 options to assign a skill point, and you're on your way. The loot in the game was also minimal, with new, stronger weapons becoming available in shops as you progress through the story. And that was it. A lot of older action games in general just focused on gameplay, introducing new weapons or skills at a steady pace without ever having new menu surf to progress your character or story. Nowadays, it feels like way too many games that are supposed to be focused on the narrative are trying to straddle the line of also including RPG elements that end up just detracting from the experience and frustrating players. I'm not even going to try to include Final Fantasy VII Rebirth in this video, because that might actually end up throwing my PS5 out of a window if I have to go through those menus one more time. When I play games like Diablo, Destiny, Elden Ring, Skyrim, or Borderlands, I'm there for the loot and character build. I want to find the best gear and focus on min-maxing my character. I'm fine with menu surfing in these games because that's the expectation of the genre. The story is secondary to me in those games. I know what I'm there for. I'm not looking for an experience I'm emotionally invested in via the narrative. I just want to look cool, adventure, and destroy a bunch of shit while I'm doing it. I don't even think the developers of these narrative-focused games could really explain to me why having these loot systems is necessary to the core experience. I'd really like to know the lore reason for when Ragnarok is on the way. Kratos really needed to take that extra time to decide between a belt with 1% swag or 2% swag.
Come on!
This video is sponsored by Ground Branch, the uncompromising thinking man's FPS from one of the developers behind the original Rainbow Six and Ghost Recon games. Live out your tactical fantasy through 8-player co-op multiplayer, complete with proximity chat and in-depth character and weapon customization. Don't have 7 friends to play with? Well, head on down to your local grocery store and start asking strangers in the produce aisle. Also, while you're there, please check to see if the heirloom tomatoes are still on sale. Those juicy little guys are so delicious. Ground Branch is here to put the tactical back into tactical shooter, and the big version 1034 update makes the experience even better thanks to map improvements, additional playable characters, and the new prone stance. So what are you waiting for? Start shouting things like breach, suppressing fire, and I've got your 6 to all your new produce aisle pals today in Ground Branch. Available now on Steam in early access.